Now, the rains are here in full force, and for 8 hours in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, houses were submerged and property destroyed after the downpour. But the state government, through the Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, advises residents living on low-plain areas to relocate.
Started off as light showers, soon became a large pool of water in most parts of Ibadan in Oyo State. After over 8 hours of continuous downpour, the impact of the rains were quite visible and in fact portends what to expect in the days ahead. In Olodo in Egbeda local government area, houses are submerged. Similarly, in Orogun and Agbo areas of Ibadan, North local government area, the story is the same. According to the State Commissioner for the Environment, about 7 communities are affected. He, however, says plans are in place to demolish all structures standing against the free flow of water in flood-prone areas across the state.
By our river is supposed to live 25 meters. Where we have gone around today, we know that many of them, they did not observe that setback. Are you with me? Then many of the houses have been mined, and I can assure you that now government will demolish any legal structure found along the rivers. Remember last year when we had similar thing because of the streams and rivers we did last year, and the settled what do you call it, drainages, we never witnessed it. So we thank God for the job we are doing. Otherwise, it would have been worse than this.
Having become a regular occurrence during rainy seasons, the state government has started opening up all water beds around rivers and canals in the state to avoid the repeat of heavy flooding experienced during last year's rainy season in the state.
Now, to take a look at the intense weather and its impact in the weeks ahead, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the Director General of the Nigeria Hydrological, that is, Services Agency, Dr. Moses Beckley. He joins me from Abuja. Thanks so much for joining us, Doctor, on the news at 10.
Thank you for having me.
All right,
now Nigeria.
The last time we spoke about this, you had warned that this was going to happen, this level of rain that we see. Would you say that we're past the worst of it in terms of the prediction that you gave?
Well, actually the predictions are to alert the people so that they can do what is necessary. It's very unfortunate that year in, year out, what we see is what we always have been saying. And that is simply because the people have not been yielding or obeying the environmental laws, the town planning guidelines, and then people have deliberately decided to erect structures where they should not have done so. So it's really unfortunate. And I think the earlier people start taking these laws and guidelines seriously and also responding to the forecast and the alerts, taking them very seriously, it will be the better for us all. Because what we've seen here now are very, very pathetic. Lives have lost, properties have been destroyed. And so, but I keep on saying that if the governments at different levels do what should be done, such would have been averted. Yeah, most of these channels have been heavily silted, and so the capacity of the channels have been reduced. So they need to be dredged, and of course the people have to stay some safe distance away from these channels. And sometimes there should be some walls and barriers erected so that at least should there be any overflow, they will be protected.
In terms of the worst, because initially my initial question had been, are we going to see more heavy rain? Have we passed the worst of it? So we know what to expect, in the weeks ahead.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, the truth of the matter is that we are to expect more rains. As it has been forecasted, we experienced late onset of the rains this year. Therefore, we are going to see more of the rains. We are just in June, and of course we have July, we have the month of August, September and October. So we have not really gotten to the peak yet, and that is why we have to start doing the needful.
I know you had warned, or your agency had warned the states to be proactive. You had talked about building, dredging, gutters and stuff, and issues like that. But you see, in this particular state, or your state, for instance, they've asked residents to relocate. Is that what is going to stop the flooding if the people move?
Well, the flooding cannot be stopped much as we can't stop the rains from falling. What we need to do here is to take care of our environment, where the natural channels for the passage of this water, this rainwater, should be enlarged, should be trained, should be dredged, so that the storage capacity will be increased. Now, if this is done, you will not the overflow, the amount of overflow will be checked. And of course, I said earlier that these channels or the flow of the waters should be respected. People should stay clear, they should stay away, safe distances from these places. Yes, I know that, or we all know that these flood plains are very fertile, but then for nothing can replace life. So for their dear life, they can come do their businesses there and then make sure that they stay upland for their safety.
What do you think we can do differently from the planning stage? Because you seem to be blaming the people a lot for what is happening right now. From the aspects of people who are planning for the people when this happens, what can be done differently?
The governments have their roles, individuals have their roles, communities have their roles to play, and it is very clear. It's very clear. What we are saying here is that the rains can be stopped. They must come down because they are blessing to us. Without the rains, we can't have food to eat. But as they fall down, nature has so created that the channels are there for them to flow along these channels. So we should be responsible enough to make sure that the channels are wide enough, they are deep enough to carry this water. And what else can be said? But where structures must be constructed, then of course the relevant authorities should do that. Be it the federal, the state, or the local government. Even the communities can do some structural construction to save their people.
Dr. Moses Beckley, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10 tonight. We move on to some legal matters, and after 6 weeks in detention, the Department of State Services has released the Managing Director of Capital Oil and Gas Limited, Obah. Mr. Obah was released unconditionally after no case was established following a rigorous investigation by the DSS. The DSS had arrested Mr. Obah on May the 5th, 2017 for his alleged engagement in acts of economic sabotage, which included stealing, diversion and illegal sale of petroleum products stored in his tank farm in Lagos. The DSS claims the product was valued at over 11 billion naira. Now let's cross over to Abuja. Here's Ibrahim Adra. Ibrahim.
Well, many thanks, Ijoma. Now, the arraignment of suspected kidnappers of some Turkish international school children and teachers has stalled due to the absence of an interpreter. Some of the 5 suspected kidnappers told the trial judge, Justice John Oho, that they did not understand the English language fluently. The case was then stood down to look for an interpreter, but all efforts proved abortive, and then the judge adjourned the case to June the 21 to enable the court arrange for an interpreter. The suspects, according to the police, were discovered to be responsible for the kidnap of 5 Turkish school children and their teachers in Ogun State on January 13, 2017. The gunmen invaded the school, formerly known as Turkish International School, in a white Hilux and took the students and teachers away. Thereafter, the kidnappers demanded the sum of 1.2 billion naira as ransom for the victims to regain their freedom.
The arraignment could not take place because The defendant claimed not to understand English, that they understand Pidgin English. And you know, Pidgin is not the language of the court. So there's a need for us to get an interpreter to translate it from the normal, proper English to the Pidgin they said they understand. And so the court has taken upon itself to ensure that an interpreter is produced before tomorrow, so that by tomorrow the arraignment can take place. So it couldn't take place because there was no interpreter in court. They've long been served with a copy of the charges, so it is left for them to communicate with their family, and they have access to who. If they say they want representative, their family members to get lawyers for them, they are free. So it depends, maybe they are not making the request, but if after arraignment, I'm sure their family will get in touch with them and get them lawyers that will represent them.
A chief magistrate court sitting in the Ibadan area of Lagos has struck out a charge against the federal lawmaker Aliyu Pategi, who was remanded last week Friday after failing to produce his wife, former Minister of State for Defense and the FCT, Jumoke Akinjide. Honorable Pategi, who represents Edu Mora Pategi Federal Constituency of Kwara State, had on August 10, 2016 entered a bail bond of 650 million naira for Ms. Akinjide, but the former minister was said to have jumped bail. Today, the former minister surrendered herself to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, at its Lagos office in Ikoyi. Our judiciary correspondent Shola Shwele has the report.
Last week Friday, the EFCC secured an order from the magistrate court to remand a federal lawmaker, Honorable Aliyu Pategi. The court subsequently adjourned till Tuesday to hear a motion for the forfeiture of recognizance for the sum of 650 million naira to the federal government if the lawmaker fails to produce his wife, Jumoke Akinjide. The EFCC had charged Ms. Akinjide for allegedly collecting 650 million naira out of a sum of $115 million allegedly doled out by former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Dezani Alison Madueke, for the purpose of compromising the 2015 general elections. Magistrate Folashade Botoku had been told that the charges were pending before a federal high court in Ibadan. But Ms. Akinjide had failed to appear to answer to the charges on 3 different occasions, a situation which had caused the Ibadan court to order the EFCC to produce her on the next adjourned date of Wednesday, the 21st of June, or the case would be struck out. When the case came up before the magistrate court on Tuesday, counsel to Ms. Akinjide and Honorable Pategi asked for a short stand down to enable him discuss an out-of-court settlement with the EFCC. When the case resumed, the EFCC counsel confirmed to the magistrate that the defendant had turned herself in. Indeed, Channels Television obtained footage of her arrival at the EFCC's Lagos office. The EFCC subsequently asked the court to free her husband. Counsel to the defendant has, however, faulted the procedure adopted by the anti-graft agency.
We have a situation that is akin to hostage-taking. Hostage-taking in the sense that here we are faced with a situation that a husband is detained and he's refused leave to go home for over a week if he fails to produce his wife. The wife in question has already been charged before a federal high court in Ibadan for alleged conspiracy and money laundering. She has the constitutional right to avail herself whatever legal defenses come her way.
The inability of the Honorable to produce the suspect had led us to come before the court. We cannot take law in our hands. We have to come before this court to seek for the forfeiture of the bond, and that's what happened.
The EFCC says the defendant will be arraigned on Wednesday before Justice Ayo Emmanuel on a 24-count charge of conspiracy and money laundering.